We really should stop this fighting. Otherwise, we'll miss the fireworks.
There won't be any fireworks.
And here we go.
And once again, we got the models in complete disagreement with our next storm system. We'll take a look at those details coming your way next. Hey, before we get started, let's send out our thoughts and prayers to those impacted by the weekend storms, especially those in Tennessee. I'm going to leave a link down below with the American Red Cross where you can make a donation to those impacted by the storm. Welcome back, everybody, to the Weather Nerds YouTube page. I'm meteorologist Greg Majeski, and before we get started, I first want to thank all the new subscribers. Yes, our last video kind of went viral, had over 15,000 views, and picked up a couple hundred new subscribers, and thank you. We're currently up to 729. And for the 90% of you folks who have not quite subscribed to the channel, please consider it would be an honor to have you on board. Hey, let's go ahead and take a look at the 3 things you need to know for this edition. First off, we're going to take a look at the North Atlantic Oscillation. That's kind of helps us with the position of the jet stream and where we can kind of anticipate big major storm systems, if they're going to be out there or not. Then we're going to do a 10-day model comparison, and boy, with the next storm system, the European model and the GFS model are in complete disagreement here on the next system. And then finally, we'll take a look at your updated climate outlook, looking at your precipitation as well as your temperature outlook. That'll almost take you up to about Christmas time for later in the month. With that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the NAO. So first off, we're going to take a look at the North Atlantic Oscillation. This is kind of the oscillation of the jet stream. When it's in a negative phase, that's typically when we get the colder weather across the continental United States, plus bigger storm systems. When it's in a positive phase, we typically get a situation where we're not getting cold snaps and not any major storm systems. So let's go and zoom in here a little bit and kind of illustrate this. If you remember back at the end of November, December, we had a nice cold snap here across most of the country. We're currently sitting in a neutral phase where you can still get big storm systems like we just had across the eastern third of the United States. But the trend going forward, and all these little red squiggly lines are different model outputs. It definitely clearly shows us going positive up to about a +1. And then we kind of stay into a positive phase right through about Christmas Day. So what that's telling me from a forecaster's perspective, looking at this graph here, is that we should see temperatures above normal and really not seeing any major storm systems across the country going up to about Christmas Day. Of course, this can always change, but right now the trend is for it to stay in a positive phase. Let's go ahead and take a look at the American GFS model and the European model because they're in a complete disagreement with our next storm system affecting the U.S. So we're going to start off with the American GFS model. This is the 0Z run on December the 11th, and I'm going to start it out on Wednesday because that's when things really start to develop here with some snows across New Mexico and rains across the Texas Panhandle and through Texas. Now, what we're going to watch is this piece of energy is going to dive down into the Gulf of Mexico, and it's going to kind of hook up with the subtropical jet stream, a little energy down here with a new area of low pressure that's going to form. And then we're going to track this up the eastern seaboard as we go into this upcoming weekend, going into Sunday. Now, there's not a real cold air in place, so we're not expecting like a blizzard or anything like this, but some very heavy rains and gusty winds across a big chunk of New England before the cold air kind of comes in on the back part of the system. So let's go ahead and step you through this as we go forward into Saturday. So we're going from Wednesday and Saturday. It's kind of going to be a bit of a slow mover here as we go forward into time. So as I go ahead and progress you forward here, we're going to stop this on Saturday morning. You can see the energy in the Gulf of Mexico, that precipitation starting to move through Texas. And then as we get into Saturday morning, you're seeing that low pressure starting to form there as we get into Saturday morning. So I'm going to freeze it right there. And you can see the low pressure system right back here. Now the upper level feature is still hanging back here across Texas. So we've got a little upper level feature sitting right back in here. So it's going to take time, but eventually this is going to kick out according to the GFS model and head up the eastern seaboard as we head through the day on Sunday. So let's go ahead and continue to go forward into time and see how this develops. So again, going forward, you're seeing the heavy rains across areas of the Florida peninsula there throughout the day on Saturday. And then as we shift into Sunday morning, things start to get cranking. So by Sunday morning, we've got a low pressure system there kind of coming in here across the area down near Jacksonville. And notice also some cold air. Got some cold air up here across the high plains. It's going to come in behind this low pressure. So there's our low right here. And it's going to continue to track up the eastern seaboard as we go throughout the day on Sunday pretty quickly. And watch the pressure also fall with this area of low pressure. So again, as I go forward here and you kind of see what's going on here throughout the day on Sunday, by the time we get late in the day on Sunday, it's sitting off the Carolina coast. And as we go into Monday morning, the low really deepens off here, but so we freeze it there on Monday morning. This is on December the 18th. You can see the cold air kind of coming in behind this system for sure. Some very rainy conditions across New York City. Boston getting hammered pretty good with a 987 low pressure system. Here comes the cold air on the backside of this. They're not really in phase together. Obviously, if they were, we'd be dealing with a winter storm and not just a big rainmaker across the Northeast. But as I go forward again through time, taking you into the following Wednesday, as the storm system begins to exit, so this is late in the day on Monday, look down to 979 millibars, that cold air really coming in. The Great Lakes will probably get fired up with some lake effect snows there as the winds kind of move across the Great Lakes there. This low starts to move on off. So as we go into Tuesday and into Wednesday, it is really quiet back behind this storm system as we go ahead and freeze this going into Wednesday morning. So by Wednesday morning, here, or about throughout the day on Wednesday, things are pretty quiet. So we got one major storm system that the American GFS model is showing. We've got some cold air that'll settle in across the high plains in the Northeast on the back side of this, but the bulk of the country is looking pretty quiet. You're looking out here toward the west, things are looking pretty mild overall as we head into the early portion of next week, just about 5 to 7 days before we head toward Christmas. Now let's look at the European model, which looks a little bit different than what the American GFS model is showing. So looking over at the European 0Z run on December the 11th, we can see that at least they're in a little bit of agreement with the American GFS model as we're seeing the rains and again the snows across New Mexico and Texas. So they start out agreeing on Wednesday, but what happens differently as this energy dives down to the Gulf of Mexico, it looks like it wants to camp out and stay there. We get off what's known as a cutoff low, and it kind of just meanders there across the Gulf of Mexico and Florida going into the middle of next week. So let's go ahead and step you forward on this as you can kind of see as this kind of progresses. So let's go ahead and take this forward again. We're going to stop this again on Saturday morning as we go into this upcoming weekend. So going into Saturday, December the 16th. So we're seeing the precipitation starting to come along the Gulf Coast here. Seeing some thunderstorms, looks like, down around the Texas-Louisiana border here. We are not seeing a low developing just yet here, but we are going to get one that's going to form, but it's going to be complete cutoff. It's an upper level low. You kind of see the upper level feature kind of hanging back here. This is going to dive down into the Gulf and basically camp out, not really going to go anywhere. So let's go ahead and go forward again from Saturday as we progress into Sunday morning. There's the upper level low and the surface low kind of responding to that just out ahead of it. So as we go into late in the day on Sunday, I'm finishing this on late in the day on Sunday, you're seeing the upper level low sitting right back here. There's the surface low right there. And I mean, some pretty heavy rains along the Gulf Coast and down along across the Florida Peninsula as we go through the day on Sunday and into Monday. But watch what happens here. This thing just kind of sits there. So some very heavy rains, maybe some flooding rains across the Florida Panhandle for sure, potentially going into next week for Monday if the European solution is correct. It does not go up the eastern seaboard. So as we go into Tuesday morning here, that low's still sitting down there. You notice we're not getting that charge up the eastern seaboard. We're still seeing the precipitation down here along the Florida Peninsula with some pretty decent rains there. The Northeast looking quiet as well. Also, because there's no low coming up the eastern seaboard, we're not seeing a cold shot come in behind it going into the Northeast. So because looking at forecasting is kind of like looking at a set of dominoes because we're not getting a nor'easter to go up the eastern seaboard. We're not getting the cold air to kind of funnel in on the back side of this. So as I go ahead and take this out to the end of its model run here into the following week, into Wednesday, December the 20th, still seeing that low just kind of sitting there just off the east coast a little bit off of Florida. But again, not seeing any major storm systems across the country except for that low that's kind of cut up there across the southeast there, across the Florida Peninsula down from Jacksonville down toward Miami. But rest of the country looking pretty quiet. So We're going to have to see how this begins to evolve as we go through the next couple of days to see if which model is going to be correct. Is it going to be the American GFS model with a big storm, the fireworks going up the eastern seaboard, or is there not going to be any fireworks and we're just going to have some potential flooding rains along the areas of the Florida Panhandle and the southeast coast in comparison with the European? So something to watch as we go forward in time. Let's go ahead and take a look quickly at the climate outlook. That'll take us out toward Christmas Day. I always like to tell everybody there's no absolutes in weather right now, but for those who are wanting a colder Christmas and wanting a chance of maybe a white Christmas, those are looking diminished as it stands currently. So the climate outlook right now, 6 to 10 day outlook, taking us from the 16th to the 20th of December. Again, you see bulk of the country looking pretty warm here, except for areas along the Gulf Coast. That's because of the precipitation and the cloud cover down that way. And as I progress out even further here, going out from the 8 to 14, which basically takes us right up to Christmas Eve, almost the entire nation is looking at above normal temperatures right now. Above normal temperatures really here, just taking you out to 25th, which kind of lines up with what I showed you earlier with the North Atlantic Oscillation. Of course, also with that warm weather, we're really looking at pretty much dry weather as well. Look at bulk of the country here from the December 16th to the 20th is looking at dry conditions here, except for areas, of course, if there's a cutoff low, we're going to obviously see rains down here. And then there's another feature that might bring in some rains that could be battering the west coast a little bit along California from the 16th to the 20th. And as I go even further out in time here, going out from days 8 to the 14th, which of course takes us right up to about Christmas Eve. Again, the bulk of the country looking pretty dry here. Maybe 50-50, maybe we can call it 50-50. So you're seeing the dry weather right through here, seeing some wet weather here across the west coast, and maybe getting into areas of Texas with some wet weather right through here. But otherwise, the trend is looking dry and looking warm, taking us right to Christmas Eve. If it changes, and it's possible it could, you never can say never, but right now, that's what we're currently seeing in the forecast models. Hey, if you could do me a favor, if you have not subscribed yet to the channel, if you like what you see, please do me a favor. Please hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and give me a thumbs up. It really helps with the algorithm, helps us kind of grow this channel, and I really want to get to a point where I get enough subscribers on board to be able to do some real-time weather reporting, because that's what the algorithm does. It really got to get a big audience first to kind of cover like severe weather events and things like that. So you can help me out by doing that. Okay, that's it for now. You guys take it easy. That's the latest update. We'll see you on the next edition. Until then, have a pleasant and safe day. Bye-bye, guys.